And I would like to read just a few verses to set the setting for our text. And while you are turning there, I would remind you that I am 43 years old, and I've been preaching for 15 years, and I've never preached a sermon over 2 hours. And I promise not to do that this morning. I've not managed the time well this morning, so I'm going to move quickly so I can get you out here very shortly. Luke's Gospel, chapter 23. And I'd like to pick up the narrative with verse 32. And I'm reading this morning from the New American Standard translation of the Holy Book. Luke 23, verse 32. Hear the word of the Lord. 2 others also who were criminals were being led away to be put to death with him, and the him being Jesus. When they came to the place called the Skull, there they crucified him and the criminals, one on the right and the other on the left. But Jesus was saying, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And they cast lots, dividing up his garments among themselves. And the people stood by looking on, and even the rulers were sneering at him, saying, he saved others, let him save himself, if this is the Christ of God, his chosen one. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up to him, offering him sour wine, and saying, if you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. Now there was also an inscription above him, this is the King of the Jews. One of the criminals who were hanged there was hurling abuse at him, saying, are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us. But the other answered, and rebuking him said, do you not even fear God, seeing you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed are suffering justly, for we are receiving what we deserve for our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong. And he was saying, Jesus, remember me when you come in your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come in your kingdom. And I want to speak this morning from that verse, simply, Jesus, remember me. Remember me. Those of you who know me know that I speak very fondly of my sisters. I have 4 of them, you know, and they love me dearly. My oldest sister in particular, she's one of the most kindest people I've ever known. And I never cease to be amazed at her great compassion. I can never remember a single birthday that I've had that she has forgotten. Every year, even unto this day, I receive a birthday card on my birthday and a telephone call, and she calls me and she sings happy birthday to me. She always remembers. She never forgets my anniversary date of my wedding. She never forgets any of my children's birthdays. She always remembers. And not only does she remember me and all of my children, but my nieces and nephews. She never forgets any of us. She always remembers. There's something about being remembered by the ones that you love. You want to be remembered by those that you love. And how we live our lives, how we treat other people, to some degree will determine by whom and how often we are remembered. As I shared with you earlier, I was touched this week when I was going through the mail and came across that letter from Sister Patsy's sister. And she was just simply saying, remember my sister, and remember us. Remember me. A very short prayer in this text. This dying thief, this malefactor, this social deviant, this criminal, this kleptomaniac who was crucified at the same time Jesus was crucified, had the audacity the gall, the nerve to turn to the Son of God and say, Jesus, remember me. That's a short prayer. The King James Version, he says, Lord, remember me. Regardless of the version, it's only 3 words, a very short prayer. It has a noun that serves as the subject, Lord or Jesus, a verb, remember, and a personal pronoun, me. Lord, remember me. He didn't say, Lord, remember us. He said, Lord, remember me. In this life, we often walk in quartets and trios and in quintets, and we like to do things in groups. If a lady is going to go on a diet, then she tries to persuade some of her friends to go on a diet with her. The ladies here have started an exercise routine, and so they gather together as a group to motivate and encourage each other to exercise together as a group. We like doing things in a group. There's certain security in numbers. There's a sense of friendship and camaraderie in numbers. But when we walk to the cross of Calvary, we have to walk single file there. Amen. When we stand before the Lord of glory, we stand in single file. Yes. This dying thief understood that. He understood when life was fleeing from his bodies as he lost blood and as he was being asphyxiated there on the cross. You know, crucifixion was not instituted to kill people. It was instituted to punish people. Crucifixion prolonged the death process. If they merely wanted to kill someone for a capital offense, they could have beheaded them, which was often the practice of the Romans, or they could have driven a spear. But crucifixion, this barbaric, horrific act, was instituted to prolong death. Because there on the cross, one did not die from a loss of blood or from exposure, but the Romans had so perfected this barbaric act of passing a death sentence that they would actually cause a person's life to be prolonged on the cross. Yes. And a person would actually die of suffocation. Yes. They would so position their bodies on the cross that they had to push off from their feet to inhale, to take in oxygen. And they would become so weak when they could no longer push from the cross that they would gradually suffocate there. A very, very painful and disturbing death. And that's why when they crucified someone, it would take several days at times for them to die. In the case of Jesus and these 2 thieves that were crucified with him, you remember that the Jews went to the Romans and said, we want you to speed up their death because we do not want them hanging on the cross on the Sabbath day. And so the Romans took their mallets, their clubs, and they went to the 2 thieves and they broke their legs. And the reason they broke their legs is by shattering the bones in their legs, they would no longer be able to push from the cross. It would speed up their suffocation, and therefore they would die. In the case of Jesus, when they came to him, they marveled and they were amazed because they had never witnessed anyone die so quickly. When they came to Jesus, he was already dead. And they marveled. And they did not break his legs. Not because they had such great compassion for him. To break his leg is because the sovereign God who rules in the affairs of men, God had spoke through his prophets hundreds of years before that the Messiah would not have a bone broken. And so they exercised self-restraint, not because they were not sadistic and barbaric. They exercised self-constraint because God sovereignly rules in the affairs of men. And God withheld them back from breaking Jesus' legs. So this thief there, huffing and puffing and heaving for breath, trying to take in oxygen and trying to exhale carbon dioxide, he turns to Jesus and he says, Lord, remember me. Before we close there, I want you to see something else. As they started this walk up the Via Dolorosa,